Hello and welcome to Games from Folktales, a podcast that mixes historical research and tabletop role-playing settings. I'm your host, Timothy Ferguson. This week, 3 short stories from Lord Dunsany's 51 Tales or The Food of Death. These 3 all involve idols. Idols are a way for fairy folk to put their stories in stasis, so that when an oral tradition has failed, they are able to re-emerge. They are also a spark of creativity for the humans around them, so that they start telling new stories which can feed fairies that are nearby. The problem, of course, is that some idols aren't to fairies at all.
The Lonely Idol. I had from a friend an old outlandish stone, a little swine-faced idol to whom no one prayed. And when I saw his melancholy case, as he sat cross-legged at receipt of prayer, holding a little scourge that the years had broken, and no one heeded the scourge, and no one prayed, and no one came with squealing sacrifice, and he had been a god, then I took pity on the little forgotten thing, and prayed to it, as perhaps they prayed long since, before the coming of the strange dark ships, and humbled myself, and said, "O idol, idol of the hard pale stone, invincible to the years, O scourge holder, give ear, for behold I pray. O little pale green image, whose wanderings are from far, know thou that here in Europe and in other lands near by, too soon there pass from us the sweets and song and the lion strength of youth. Too soon do their cheeks fade, their hair grow grey, and our beloved die. Too brittle is beauty, too far off is fame, and the years are gathered too soon. There are leaves, leaves falling, everywhere falling. There is autumn among men, autumn and reaping. Failure there is, struggle, dying and weeping. And all that is beautiful hath not remained, but is even as the glory of morning upon the water. Even our memories are gathered too, with the sound of the ancient voices, the pleasant ancient voices that come to our ears no more. The very gardens of our childhood fade, and there dims with the speed of the years even the mind's own eye. Oh, be not any more the friend of time, for the silent hurry of his malevolent feet have trodden down what's fairest. I almost hear the whimper of the years running behind him hound-like, and it takes few to tear us. All that is beautiful he crushes down as a big man tramples daisies. All that is fairest. How very fair are the little children of men. It is autumn with all the world, and the stars weep to see it. Therefore no longer be the friend of time, who will not let us be, and be not good to him but pity us, and let lovely things live on for the sake of our tears. Thus prayed I out of compassion one windy day to the snout-faced idol, to whom no one kneeled.
Is this a way of getting the fairy friend virtue, to be the only worshipper of a recently recovered idol? How desperate must that little fairy be for its story to be spread?
The Trouble in Leafy Green Street. She went to the idol shop in Moleshill Street, where the old man mumbles, and said, "I want a god to worship when it is wet." The old man reminded her of the heavy penalties that rightly attach to idolatry, and when he had enumerated all, she answered him as was meet, "Give me a god to worship when it's wet." And he went to the back places of his shop and sought out and brought her a god. The same was carved of grey stone, and wore a propitious look, and was named, as the old man mumbled, the god of rainy cheerfulness. Now it may be that long confinement to the house affects adversely the liver, or these things may be of the soul, but certain it is that on a rainy day her spirits so far descended that those cheerful creatures came within sight of the pit, and, having tried cigarettes to no good end, she bethought her of Moleshill Street and the mumbling man. He brought the great idol forth and mumbled of guarantees, although he put nothing on paper, and she paid him there and then his preposterous price and took the idol away. And on the next wet day that there ever was, she prayed to the grey stone idol that she had bought, the god of rainy cheerfulness, who knows with what ceremony or what lack of it, and so brought down on her in Leafy Green Street, in the preposterous house at the corner, that doom of which all men speak.
The simplest hook for this story is that the lady has accidentally purchased the idol of a demon and has called it up in her attempts at worship.
How the enemy came to Llwynreina. It had been prophesied of old and foreseen from the ancient days that its enemy would come upon Llwynreina, and the date of its doom was known, and the gate by which it would enter. Yet none had prophesied of the enemy who he was, save that he was of the gods, though he dwelt with men. Meanwhile, Llwynreina, that secret lamasery, that chief cathedral of wizardry, was the terror of the valley in which it stood, and of all lands round about it. So narrow and high were the windows, and so strange when lighted at night, that they seemed to regard men with the demoniac leer of something that had a secret in the dark. Who were the magicians, and the deputy magicians, and the great arch-wizard of that furtive place? Nobody knew, for they went veiled and hooded and cloaked completely in black. Though her doom was close upon her, and the enemy of prophecy should come that very night through the open southward door that was named the Gate of the Doom, yet that rocky edifice Llwynreina remained mysterious still, venerable, terrible, dark, and dreadfully crowned with her doom. It was not often that anyone dared wander near to Llwynreina by night, when the moan of the magicians, invoking we know not whom, rose faintly from inner chambers, scaring the drifting bats. But on the last night of all, the man from the black-thatched cottage by the 5 pine trees came, because he would see Llwynreina once again before the enemy that was divine but that dwelt with men should come against it, and it should be no more. Up the dark valley he went like a bold man, but his fears were thick upon him. His bravery bore their weight, but stooped a little beneath them. He went in at the southward gate that is named the Gate of the Doom. He came into a dark hall, and up a marble stairway passed, to see the last of Llwynreina. At the top a curtain of black velvet hung, and he passed into a chamber heavily hung with curtains, with a gloom in it that was blacker than anything they could account for. In a sombre chamber beyond, seen through a vacant archway, magicians with lighted tapers plied their wizardry and whispered incantations. All the rats in the place were passing away, going whimpering down the stairway. The man from the black-thatched cottage passed through that second chamber. The magicians did not look at him, and did not cease to whisper. He passed from them through heavy curtains, still of black velvet, and came into a chamber of black marble, where nothing stirred. Only one taper burned in the third chamber. There were no windows. On the smooth floor and under the smooth wall a silk pavilion stood, with its curtains drawn close together. This was the holy of holies of that ominous place, its inner mystery. One on each side of it, dark figures crouched, either of men or women, or cloaked stone, or beasts trained to be silent. When the awful stillness of the mystery was more than he could bear, the man from the black-thatched cottage by the 5 pine trees went up to the silk pavilion, and with a bold and nervous clutch of the hand drew one of the curtains aside, and saw the inner mystery, and laughed. And the prophecy was fulfilled, and Llwynrena was never more a terror to the valley. But the magicians passed away from their terrific halls, and fled through the open fields, wailing and beating their breasts. For laughter was the enemy that was doomed to come against Llwynrena through her southward gate, that was named the Gate of Doom, and it is of the gods that dwells with man.
Can a mystery cult in a high fairy aura be completely destroyed simply by walking into its holiest of holies and using one of the traditional wards against the fairy creature that they idolize? If a covenant near yours implodes for apparently no reason, could it be that laughter was brought against their god, and they are scattering to attempt to rebuild their cult, but cannot explain why, because it would lead to the weakness of their god being known throughout the order? Thank you to the LibriVox readers who recorded those stories into the public domain. See you next week. Your saga may vary.